Banagathon for pro boxing fans. Delighted to be joined over Zoom this evening by Spencer Fearon. Spencer, I know you were just about to go pray and get some food, so appreciate you hopping on. How are things?
No problem. I'm good. I'm good. How's things your end, my friend?
All good. I've actually just ate myself, so hopefully plenty of energy and an engaging interview for the people. Let's talk about the weekend's boxing, Spencer. The most contentious point of discussion from the Nick Ball fight was the knee at the end of the first round. Now, from your vantage point, I've seen a lot of people saying on social media Nick Ball was lucky and he could have even been disqualified. What was your take on all of
Um, he was lucky, and he could have got disqualified, but he didn't. So, do you know what I mean? I'm happy that he didn't get disqualified, but it was a silly thing that he did. But yeah, it is what it is.
How highly do you rate Nick Ball as a fighter? I'm seeing a lot of people saying on form he's arguably the best in the country at the minute. A lot of people talking about this potential fight with Noya and Nunes. Should Inoue move up to featherweight? What are your thoughts on Nick Ball as a fighter and the sort of run he's been on?
Nick Ball's a real deal. Let's not get taken aback by it. Nick Bull is actually the real deal. He's such a good fighter. Um, and yeah, you know what? His style of fighting, or that kind of style of fighting, guys usually burn out very quickly like that. So because of how he fights, and he's very entertaining, very engaging. He's like Minnie Mouse. Like he's like a Mighty Mouse, not Minnie Mouse, Mighty Mouse. The superhero. That's what he's like. He's a ferocious character, and he's a very intensive fighter. But fighters like that usually burn out early. So they got like 25 fights in them. I don't know how many fights Nick Ball's had right now, but like you think at that top level. But as long as he keeps on doing what he's doing, potentially, you know what I mean? He's a world champion already, but I'm saying potentially his future is really, really bright, because he's an exciting fighter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to get your thoughts, Spencer, on the recently announced replacement opponent for Joe Joyce in the form of Filip Hrgovic. Now, a lot of people on social media saying that Philip could pose an even tougher test to Joe Joyce than Dylan White. He obviously had to withdraw through a finger injury. What's your read on that fight and how dangerous a fight it is for Joe Joyce at this stage of his career?
It's a massive, dangerous fight. And the maddest thing about it is this: if you went back a year and a half ago, Joe Joyce was Jollof Joe, who's a dangerous killer. And now all of a sudden now, the two losses to Zhang and then losing to Derek Chisora, it's like now we're all writing off Joe Joyce. I think the major thing with Joe Joyce, I think it's more the mental. I don't think it's the physical. I think Joe Joyce is a person that fights well within himself because he does that Capilero kind of stuff as well. So he's a very agile person. He doesn't fight agile, right? Um, he fights very robotic, very stiff, but he's very calculated as well. But I'm gonna be real with you. Like, take away the fact of him fighting Dylan White and two British guys and think, oh yeah, this I would say is is a better fight. And the reason why I'm gonna say is because Hrgovic ain't no joke. Um, Hrgovic, Daniel Dubois is not no joke. Daniel Dubois really hits very hard, and he was in there mixing it with Daniel Dubois, and Daniel Dubois is just on some different stratosphere right now, right? And obviously, we've seen what Daniel Dubois is going on to go and do, but Hrgovic, depending on what he wants, it's a you know, excuse the pun or the terminology of it being a crossroads fight, but that is exactly what it is. It is a massive crossroads fight for both men.
And if I had to put a gun to your head, as we sit here a couple of weeks out, how do you see it playing out?
Um, I slightly favour Hrgovic in this fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be real. I do. I slightly favour Hrgovic simply because Joe Joyce has had three back-to-back losses. Um, you know, no, sorry, yeah, they'd be back-to-back actually because he had the in-between fight.
That's
Right,
Salif.
but yeah, he did. Right, so, but yeah, I slightly favour Hrgovic.
Yeah, just sticking with the heavyweight, Spencer. We think we're not sure it's going to be Alexander Usyk, Daniel Dubois, two next. Now, a lot of people are saying, who deserves the shot more than Joseph Parker? Obviously, original. originally scheduled to face Daniel Dubois before Daniel withdrew. What are your thoughts on that? You think Joe Parker, I mean, most people's consensus is he's done enough for a shot to becoming a two-time world champion?
Joseph Parker has one of the best resumes in boxing, right? Outside of Anthony Joshua. Look at his resume. Look at the guys that he's fought. And look how he's come back after defeat. After him losing to Joseph Parker. After him losing to Joe Joyce, look at the things that he has done. Look at his consistency. You know, I don't care if Mike McCauley had 1 hour's notice, right? Mike McCauley is still Mike McCauley, right? And it's a good thing that Martin McCauley's got his chance on May the 3rd against a Jaguar to right the wrongs of what previously happened in his last fight out. But we have to call it as it is. Joseph Parker's a throwback fighter simply because he'll take his lumps and his bumps and he's willing to go in there with anyone. And there's nobody more proving, I would say, to get a world title shot than Joseph Parker. And I think it should have been Joseph Parker, but I understand the business aspects of why it's going to be Daniel Dubois if it actually is signed. But it should be Joseph Parker.
Yeah, I think a lot of boxing fans would echo that sentiment. Spencer, big news last week on the announcement from Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh. They'll be starting their own promotional venture under the TKO umbrella. Obviously, an absolute, mega power in the sport, both MMA, WWE. People are saying it's the end of the likes of Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn. People comments from Turkey and Dana are a bit more sort of less aggressive than they were in the launch press conference. I know it's very early days and sort of we're all privy to the same information, but how do you see this new power play in boxing?
All right, let me tell you this now. Yeah, I've been involved in boxing and been around boxing for 45 years. God has just blessed me to look young. I've seen the ups and downs of Frank Warren. So if anybody's counting out Frank Warren to think, it's the end of Frank Warren, I'm telling you, I've seen Frank Warren when it was Frank Warren Sports. You know what I mean? Then go on to become Sports Network, then go on to become, Queensbury. I've seen it. I've seen the dips and Frank Warren is an incredible survivor. So don't think like, it's going to be all over. It's all done now. And don't count Frank Warren out. Eddie Hearn's newer in the game, and he's a very, very successful businessman in other business groups who happen to deal with sport. So we can't look on to think like, it's going to be done for anybody because these guys are successful men. But I think it's a good thing that Turki Al-Sheikh, His Excellency, is linked up with Dana White, right? Because you can't have two good guys and you can't have two bad guys. You got to have someone who's going to play the villain. Dana White's going to play the villain, and Turki Al-Sheikh's going to be like the fairy godfather, right? That's how this is going to be, right? But we've seen, and I remember years ago in the Ring magazine, when I used to buy it on a regular, I even had a paper out so I could get the Ring magazine. That and the boxing news, they were the things. Ring magazine was once a month, every week for boxing news, and in that you would see the fact of, with the Ring magazine, like 1987, 1988, they were trying to do this 8 weights, 1 world champion. And it was a ring belt. And you got to think how powerful that Knight Fletcher was, the founder of the Ring magazine, because famously when Muhammad Ali knocked out Sonny Liston in 1965, it was imagine, he's just the editor of a magazine, right? He's a founder of a magazine. He was the one that pointed to Jojo Walcott because he was the referee of the fight to say, he's counted 10, stop the fight. That is how powerful the Ring magazine was, right? The Ring magazine has sentimental value to purists, but the thing is that they're trying to go back to the sentimental values, and I think that's an excellent thing, because in my mind, it's like, if you got the ring belt, you're the real champ. And now that they've got that, now we can start seeing the real champ. And then we can get rid of these plethora of other stupid belts, having like 16 world champions in one way. Come on, let's go back to authenticity. It doesn't, because in the old days, it doesn't mean that because you didn't have a belt that you weren't a good fighter and that you didn't earn money. That's nonsense because it happened. But now, to appease TV, everybody's got to have a belt. But why can't you just be this good guy, this good wholesome household name that enjoys fighting? So let's see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think when you speak to casual sports fans about boxing, it's one of the most common grievances they have. They just can't get their head around, as you say, the amount of world champions at the same weight class. So we shall see if this link up does
Yeah,
anything to
we shall see.
alleviate that.
We shall see.
Spencer, last thing before I do let you go,
God,
we've got to talk about Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn. Now, I've not spoke to you. I've not seen any interviews of you since the crazy, the press tour, the egg slap, Piers Morgan this week. What have you made of this build up so far? I mean, for better or worse, it has made the fight, I think, certainly one of the biggest we've seen in these shows for a while.
you know what? It has made the fight. And let's be real. If Conor Benn's name was Conor Jordan and Eubank Jr.'s name was Chris Watkins, nobody would give a shit about this fight, right? So what's happened is this fight has amalgamated current trends with sentimental value. And when you put those two together, you amalgamate those two together, it makes for something amazing because of the polarizing characters that they are. And it's a good thing. And I really do believe that the fathers should get 50% of the money because it is off of the back of their names. But also at the same time, Conor Benn actually does hate Chris Eubank Jr. He does, right? Let's not hide it. And people getting fooled. Oh, Conor's he's too hyped for this. He isn't. He's very calculated. But I do like how Chris Eubank Jr. has handled himself, especially handled Piers Morgan. Like Piers Morgan was trying to bully him, and he's like, "No, I'm not having this foolishness." I rate how Chris Eubank Jr. is handling things, and also I've got to give him another rating because, as we're speaking now, I think he's on the way to Brixton in South London, to an amateur boxing club down there to go see the kids down there. I think that's excellent. So massive props to both men, and I'm looking forward to that fight. I'm looking forward to it. But this is the thing that's in my mind. And I remember when Kell Brook fought Golovkin, right? And I spoke to Golovkin about 2 years after the fight. So what was it like fighting Kell Brook? Because Kell Brook looked really, really good in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Right? And he said about the punches just bounced off of him. And if you speak to Kell Brook's own admission that the punches actually bounced off of Golovkin. I thought I could do something and I couldn't do anything. So when you look at it like that, then you have to realize to yourself, like, right, that weight jump is going to be a lot. But I'm saying I'm going for a lot for Conor Benn with the spitefulness and the hatred that he has. And I know when you really dislike someone, it brings something out of you. But, I'm looking forward to that fight. For the simple fact is, like, that event within itself is fantastic because it's crossed over. Lots of people are talking about it. Everywhere you go, people are talking about it. There is nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely excellent. And plus, I can remember when the two fathers first fought, and the second time is when they fought in October of of '93. But when the fathers first fought, when they first went at it, I remember that fight clearly in my head. It was a Sunday night. It was at November 18th, 1990, and it was like, it seemed like the world stopped to watch that fight. And this has drawn something from it because everybody's talking about it. And fair play to both men. They're selling the fight really well, which is genuine. It's not orchestrated. Oh, you're going to do this. No, it's proper. So I'm looking forward to that fight. May the better man win.
Yeah, for sure. Just last one, Spencer. You touched on the fathers there. We've saw very different attitudes, approaches from Nigel and Chris Senior. Obviously, Nigel been very involved in the promotion, been at the press conferences. We saw him put hands on Chris Eubank Jr., whereas Chris Senior, never seemed to have been much of a fan of this fight. Doesn't like the re-arbitration clause. Yeah, seems to have a few issues with it. Do you understand Chris Senior's concerns as a father, and what do you make of the seemingly frayed relationship between him and his son?
I'm very close. I'm very close to Chris Senior, and he has stated on many times that um, um, uh, a 160 fighter should fight a 160 fighter, and so he's got his concerns, and like on certain things, you see, when it comes to things like fathers and sons, I don't really too want to give my opinion, especially when I know people.
Yeah, of course.
Right, I don't really want to give my opinion too tough. We have, me and Christine have a lot of personal conversations. I have to say one thing that massive. It was very nice. Like, he turned up to Michael Watson's 60th birthday party and handed him over a Rolex from Turkey Al Sheikh. That was really cool, because Chris phoned me 2 days prior and said if I was going to go to Watson's birthday party. But unfortunately, a friend of mine just lost their mother. So we have a 9 night, it's like a wake. So I had to go to that celebration of the Miss Valerie Brown. So I had to go to that. Otherwise, I'd gone to that. But I'm saying, when we look at Chris Eubank Sr. not wanting to be involved in this, is because he, more than anybody, understands the dirtiness of this business. And it is a dirty business, right? But I take as I find. I've seen a lot of cleanness inside of the game as well. So on those kind of things, I'd rather not publicly speak about my feelings towards that. But I really do wish, and I pray to God that Chris is there. There's some reconciliation between him and his son for this fight. Do you know what I mean? But I think Chris Jr. has managed to do things his own way, and he's got success from it. If you're looking at the fact of financially, he's done fantastically well. So, like I said, I wish both men all the best.
Yep, well said, Spencer. I really appreciate you giving some of your time, Spencer.
No problem, my friend. Keep up the great work, pro boxing fan. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I thought I was talking to Uni, but anyway.
And he's always on the ground, and he doesn't do some interviews. He's the man on the ground.
All right, then, my friend.
Thanks
Peace
very
and
much,
love,
mate.
man. Keep up the good work, man. Keep on grafting. All right,
Appreciate
bro.
it, Spencer.